Alright guys, it's Wednesday. We're back out the shop here. Show you what I'm working on. I'm putting a couple, let's see if we can back up and see it, a couple loops in my airline with some T's. Copper's pretty expensive, so I'm using what I got here at the shop. I'm going to put a drain here, a drain here, and a drain here. I've added about another, I'd say another 4, 8, probably another 12 or 13 feet to the length of my pipe. And instead of taking my air straight off of that one, which I was before, we just brought that inside of it. And we're going to pick it up over here, and hopefully those couple loops in there will get the rest of that water. I'm still getting water vapor even through that M30 motor guard filter, brand new filter in there. And I was talking on the Mumble on Sunday, and I don't know if it was this week or last week, but Tom and I were talking about we only seem to get water in the winter, and that's probably because the water is actually condensing. Any other time water vapor is coming through and we're not catching it. So I never really had it give me any huge problems since I had this set up. We've got pipe goes up the wall and then all the way back into the other room where the compressor is. There's a drop there which doesn't have a drain in it. I'm going to remedy that. But I've got a whole bunch of fittings here. There's 2 ball valves, and a third one is floating around here somewhere that I took off that I originally had in this. And I'll have to find something to set up to put over there, because that one gets full of water. And I think what happens is there's so much water in that pipe. Sorry, the bright light's washing that out. It gets so much water in there, as the air that I'm spraying with is traveling across it, it's picking it back up. So what I like to do when I spray is I open the drain just a teeny bit in the bottom of the compressor, and I've got mine set up with a leg on it and a little 1/4-inch ball valve, so it's easy to get to. And I guarantee, even though the compressor isn't running a day or two, I mean, that's not a lot of water, but it's too much. And I looked at the Harbor Freight refrigerated air dryers, and they're not on sale. They're still about $400. So we're going to try this first because I have all the stuff and I have the time to do it. I have put a union in it right here so that I can take this apart to service any of that. What else did I do? I hate putting 2 different kinds of pipe together. It's black pipe and then it goes to copper, but in lieu of not buying any more materials, this is all stuff I have here at the shop. So that's what I'm doing for now, and we'll show you some footage here in a minute. Alright, what we're doing here is we're putting one of our drain valves in, and when you're doing this plumbing stuff, you need to have one of these cleaner brushes, wire brushes, to clean inside of your fittings and the outside of your fittings real good. And then you need some flux, and then you need your solder. Now in theory, 3/4-inch pipe, 3/4-inch joint should take 3/4 of an inch of solder to sweat it together. You want to heat the fitting, not necessarily the pipe. might have guessed it, I am not a professional plumber, so let's see if that other joint back here's hot enough. Nope. So I've got a wet towel, and we're going to wipe that excess solder off because it's still a little bit wet. So we're probably okay with that joint, and I'm going to jump right over to this other half of the T because it's still pretty warm. Shouldn't take much to heat it. Sometimes I just do these fittings so the solder drips out the bottom. And this ball valve is open when I'm soldering it. If you leave it closed when you solder it, there is nylon in there. And if that's touching this side that's getting real hot, you can have problems. It's the way I was taught to do it. I don't know that that's the right way to do it, but that's the way I was taught to do them. And I use this kind of stuff when I do sprinkler systems and all that. So it's basically how you get that soldered. Take you off the stand here. And we're going to just continually repeat this process throughout the rest of my pipe work here. And there's what you got. They're not beautiful. No big deal though to me. It's going to be just fine. Those are sealed up, they're tight, and they're not going to blow apart with 175 psi. So we're going to continue to clean all these areas up. Some of them I already did, but I didn't clean any of the elbows and any of those T's out, or this fitting over here. So I'm going to get all that done and sort of assembled, and then I'm just going to walk through it and solder it right on the wall there. I do have a little fiberglass heat blanket I'll stick behind it. So, alright, I'll show you when we get some more progress made here. Alright guys, it's about 3 o'clock, I guess. Maybe 4 o'clock. I'm not sure. We've got everything hooked back up. I'll give you kind of a look-see of what I did there. And that's what it is. So I've got 4 drains in it right there, and I've got another one over there. I screwed up. I thought I needed one here, but I really didn't. I forgot this one was going in here, and I already had it threaded in and the T on, and I started soldering things up, and I'm like, oops. But oh well, you know, it can't hurt anything. I got nothing coming through right there right now, but the compressor hasn't gotten good and hot and run for a while, like when you run in the DA or something like that. So I may DA down my dirt nibs and everything out of this with 1500 and get some of that peel out of there. And then I'll probably buff on that. Should be nice and firmed up. Do a little check spot here with the thumbnail. Yeah, it's getting pretty hard. But again, it's not that warm in here overnight, so what I might do is cut it open with 1500 and let it sit a day or two, and then go ahead and hit it with some 2000 and buff it. See what it looks like. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how my compressor is plumbed. So we're looking at looking at just the black pipe. There's probably a 4-foot section there, and then a 10-foot section to this drop. So that's 14. And then another probably 4 there is 18. And then another 10-foot section into here is 28. And then 4 foot going down the wall is 32. And then it's really dark in here, but you can probably see there's a hose going up to connect to it there. My flexible coupling, so that's another 4 feet. So there's almost, you know, somewhere around 40 feet right there, 35 feet. and then you start adding all this copper in. So we got probably 8 foot in that first loop, so that makes it almost 50. And then probably somewhere between 50 and 60 feet before I even get to my air hose. So I'm hoping that that's enough of a cool down for that water to start coming out. And I've got 50 feet of hose here too, which lays on the floor. And I think, you know, the floor's cold. So if there's still water vapor in there, it condenses in the hose and then comes out the end. So I've been hooking the spray gun up to the end, and I also uncoil all my hose when I'm spraying, so it's all flat, so it's not all coiled up like that. Just in case any water is in there, I always purge that hose before I spray to make sure nothing comes out of it, and hold it real close to the floor so it doesn't have to fight gravity to come out if there is any. But every time I uncoupled that gun the other day, I was getting a mist out of, you know, a little bit of water vapor out of that hose. And when the gun was plugged in, it was coming out around the coupling. So I had to keep purging my air lines and everything else. So that's pretty much it. There's my compressor. I think this is like Pisser's old one. This is a Sanborn 5 horsepower 2-stage 30 amp 230 volt compressor. This compressor was bought when I was probably 14 years old, and I'm 38. So it's got some serious mileage on it. You can see the oil on the floor. It weeps oil around the bottom of the oil pan on it. And like any compressor, you're going to get oil down the line. But it was not used as a serious duty compressor its whole life. It was in my father's garage, and we bought it to paint our first vehicle, which he painted when I was 14 or 15. I did all the body work on it, and you know, of course it was far from perfect, but that truck was a F-150 82, I think it was, and we had the neighbor across the street spot weld new wheel arch panels in, just like I did, except these were MIG'd in. And the way he did it, which knowing what I know now, I can't believe we ever paid him to do this, but he was a body man, and I guess that was their way of doing it back then. Was that panel, we didn't cut out any of the metal, we just took the paint off all the way around it and then clamped it up there, and then he had a Lenco spot welder, and he spot welded all around the perimeter, and we Duraglassed it, you know, around the edges, and started feathering it way out into the bed. So it stuck out a little bit, but my dad had that truck probably 10 years, maybe, not quite that long. Probably 5 years after that, and it wasn't rusting yet, so it held up pretty good. I think the seam was far enough back, so you know, if it was rotted up in this area right here, let's go where there's more light. Yeah, right. If it was rotted up in you know, in this area, and those panels came to way back here, I think it took a long time to get that moisture way back into that seam. So it worked. I mean, his idea worked. It just was a little hokey to me. At the time I didn't care. I just wanted a nice looking vehicle, and I wanted, you know, me and one of my good buddies really put a lot of time into it, you know, spent our whole summer working on that truck just so we could make it into something. And I think that's what gave me the taste of it. And then he and I did quite a few vehicles, you know, little spot things here and there, nothing great, before base coat, clear coat. Not before it was popular, but before I painted any of it. And that's kind of how I got into it. So that's all, you know, stuff that helped me get started for sure. So, all right, well, we'll see if that works out, and we'll catch up with you guys later. Hope you're all having a good day, and we'll see you.